What's good, man? This is Issa Mitchell Podcast, which one and only host, Glory Boy, back here with our next special guest in the building. As you always know, man, this is the most diverse podcast in Buffalo, New York. Number one, like I said, and we continue to bring all walks of life to come talk about their experiences, life careers, and so on. Today, we have our special guest in the building. I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves, but before so, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to comment and share this video right after you're done watching it. Once again, let's go ahead and jump straight into the episode. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks.
Layla,
So happy to be here. Yes, Layla.
can you introduce yourself? Tell the people, just what you do, and we can start this conversation.
Yeah. So my name is Layla. I'm also known as Miss Layla James. I am a professional wrestler. I wrestle in all different parts. I train in Buffalo. Grapplers Anonymous is the school that I go to for training. I wrestle in Virginia, Canada, Jersey, all the surrounding New York areas. And I've been doing it for about 5 years now.
Wow.
And I also do my own business as a fitness instructor in Rochester. And yeah, but I will be relocating here in Buffalo soon. So I'm excited about that. And that's pretty much about me.
That's amazing. Very, very experienced wrestler. 5 years. What really got you into wrestling though? Like if you don't mind sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I grew up watching wrestling, I told myself, that's what I want to do. I always wanted to be a wrestler. I visioned myself as being one. It was like the number one thing and goal that I wanted. And here I am doing it.
Right.
It took me a while, but I'm doing it now and I'm living it and just living the dream.
Did your parents say anything about that? Because a lot of times, parents want you to become something else like doctor, nurse, engineer, and so on. But like when you told them that you was a wrestler, what did they say? What was their their reaction to that?
Well, I kind of took it more serious.
Right.
5 years ago when I started. I think that when I was doing it, a lot of people thought it was like a joke. They laughed and thought it was funny because they didn't really think maybe I was gonna make it far.
Right.
But 5 years in, I get a little bit more respect doing it. I get more, people congratulating me and saying, good job. But before, when I first started, it was kind of like people were laughing and looked at me like I was silly.
That's everybody.
Yeah.
When you first start something, people gonna laugh. But when they see that now, okay, you're making something out of
progression, yeah.
yourself, they start coming your way. I mean, I've experienced that myself. When I first started my podcast, I've had people saying because a lot of people start podcasts and they give up. I've had people say come on, bro, try to do this. It's expensive to do a podcast, but I just kept doing it. I've
Yeah.
been doing my podcast since middle of 2020, 2022, 2021. So I've been doing it for 3 years and a half now, and it's amazing.
Awesome.
And I love it. I get to speak to a lot of different individuals and hear a lot of different stories, and it's amazing experience to have. So Layla, so take us back to your childhood, because I like to always start from when everything started off for you. How was your childhood like?
Okay. So my childhood was a little rough, honestly. So I actually was adopted. My biological family, my mother, she was using drugs. She was on drugs really bad. So she was unable to take care of me. So basically, I had a family, an adopted family that happened to be Caucasian family, and they had raised me, and I was raised in a very, country town that was very racist. I dealt with a lot of race issues. It was really hard growing up in school, and I always got picked at on a daily basis. Getting called, the N word,
Right.
and getting food thrown at me, spit at me. all sorts of craziness.
But because I know you lived in the countryside. What made your family so different? The family that adopted you, because you said they were Caucasian. Like,
Yeah.
what made them so different compared to the people outside that saw you as something else different? Like they didn't respect you.
I think it was part of it was my adopted mom at the time. She was actually dating a African American, a black man, and I think that's why she was a little bit more welcoming, and the family was welcoming of
Right.
it because they already had experienced it. So I really don't know why other people like in the area were racist because my family wasn't. So
Yeah, I mean it's always like that too. It's always there's always gonna be those bad apples,
yeah.
out of like let's say 100 apples, you're gonna find two, three, or whatever. But I'm glad you met a family that actually did take care of you. Just being adopted, I've had people here on the podcast actually that went through the same experiences, being adopted either by a black family or white family, and when they live with the white family, a lot of time they were staying in the suburbs. So living in the suburbs, they experience same exact thing that you experience. They will
Yeah.
experience either racism or they will experience bullying because they were so different from the other kids. But like, how were you feeling though? Like just growing up, like did you always wish to have like your own biological family and also living in the city where you felt like you was welcome?
I actually did as I got a little older in my teens. I wanted to be more connected with my biological family. But at that time, that's when I was, gay at that time. So they actually weren't accepting of that lifestyle. So they would always push me away.
Okay.
And like I said, my white family was very welcoming, even though once they found out I was gay at the time, they were very welcoming and they didn't, push me away. So it was kind of hurtful, my own kind and my own family, pushing me away. So it was kind of rough, but it took some time for them to get used to it. I had to keep, coming around and some of them accepted me, but not all of them. The most part that was hurtful is my actual brother. I had a brother that he literally did not want me to meet his children, which is my nieces and nephews, because he felt that they would, I guess, magically become gay if they were around me. So he told me that he didn't want to be around me. He didn't feel comfortable. And that was really hurtful. And still, he still doesn't want anything to do with me.
So at what point did you? Because take us back to because at some point in our lifetime we feel okay, this is my path. I want to become this person. I want I feel like this is my identity. Because the conversation we had even before we even came here is that I come from Congo. So in my country, if someone was gay, you would never see them. And it was crazy because if someone was gay and your family finds out, they disown you.
Yes.
Compared to here, is different. Your family will still see you, will still, kind of keep you around, but some people in the family will just act weird.
Yeah.
But in my country, they will like disown you. The government is against that and so on. But like, at what point did you feel like, okay, I'm gay, and and I want to live in this skin of mine, and I want to appreciate myself for who I am and who I choose to be?
It was in my teens, like 14, 15. That's when I knew that I was gay and that's what I wanted. That's how I wanted to live my life.
Right.
And I honestly think I more so wanted to be a woman, a trans woman like I am now.
Right.
But I didn't really know much about it at the time because I was so young and it's something that you didn't really see often. You just saw like gay often, more often than, trans. So when I was growing up, I always leaned more towards the makeup and the hair and things like that. So I feel like that's what I really wanted to do, but
Right.
it just at the time I didn't know how to come about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's always like that because
Yeah.
you had to find a way to be accepted
Yeah.
in society. But also, like, when it came to like transitioning, at what point did you, start transitioning? Because I know now, because I wanted to have that conversation with you, because at some point I do agree with, people transitioning, but I feel like you have to get to an age where you're able to make that decision yourself.
Yes.
Not like a decision that someone else has to tell you, like, hey, like you have to do this.
Yeah.
I feel like you have to get to an age and say, you know what, I'm responsible. If I do this, after 10, 15 years, I'm not going to blame anybody. I'm going to look at myself and say, I decided to do this. So at what age did you decide, to start transitioning?
Uh, I do believe, I always felt inside that I always wanted to be a woman, but when I took the step
Right.
to actually do it, it was in my late 20s. I didn't know any resources to really help me. So I kind of like, as time went on, I was able to learn. And it was kind of like I was reliving, but just being, the person that I really was meant to be. So, yeah, so in my late 20s, I've been, trans now for about 7 years now. So still pretty, not very long, but I think I started off a little late. But like I said, if I known like what to do and
Right.
stuff, because it is a big step. It's a lot that you have to do, and and then the fear of just, because I already dealt with people already pushing me away with just being, gay at the time. So I knew that transitioning would be even, a bigger thing.
Right.
So, it's kind of like, I just finally had people start to accept me being gay. And then now it's like transitioning, it's like, bigger thing.
Yeah. And how did you feel like, because, me personally, it gets to a point like, so like when you do certain things or when you wear certain clothes and you walk in the room, at some point you will feel, okay, is this person watching me? Is this person, talking about me? Or does this person like what I have on? But like when you, start transitioning and everything started going through and you walk in certain rooms, like what was going through your mind?
Yeah. Honestly, it was a lot because I honestly would really verbally get attacked a lot. I
Right.
would always have people shout horrible things to me, but this was when I was earlier in my transition, so I didn't really look the way I do now. So now it's like I have more so like people trying to talk to me that are interested versus like before it was more because it was very visible that I was basically I just looked like a gay boy with makeup. So
I mean, now it's
yeah,
different.
after my enhancements and things that I did to look better, now it's totally different. It still is kind of like a thing that people always like look at me, but I kind of just used to it. Because I feel like if you're going to live a lifestyle that people really have an issue with, you just got to just know and be prepared what might happen. So I just kind of like already know and I expect things to happen like that.
Right.
So it's kind of like if someone says something, it doesn't really bother me because I'm already like used to it. I mean, I've dealt with it most of my life.
Yeah, you have to develop a thick skin.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna come across every walks of life and everybody's gonna accept you or, come towards you differently.
Yeah.
We had this conversation where you told me actually like there's some podcasts that wouldn't accept you on their podcast
Yeah.
because they found out you was trans.
Yeah.
And I understood that because I've been around people that don't accept people for who they are. And the reason why they do that is because they feel as if other people are gonna judge them. I told you that word, they become, prisoners in those people's lives. Like they feel as if, okay, I can't do this because this person is gonna
Yeah.
judge me. And that's why like my podcast, the most important thing about my podcast is that I accept everybody. Let's have a conversation, a normal conversation. We can agree to disagree, but isn't that how life's supposed to be?
Yeah.
So talk to us about like, those different areas where, you had to, face different obstacles in life and how did you kind of like overcome them? Even though you develop a thick skin, what was your process to overcome like any obstacle that came your way?
So basically, I've just learned to just move on from the people. Like, I'd rather be around people that accept me for who I am than be around people that don't. So it's kind of good for me to know, who actually supports me and who doesn't. When it comes to the situations of people like saying it, it's kind of one of those things where I feel like, for a podcast, for an example, like when someone approaches me and is interested in doing something with me, they obviously were interested in, getting to know me or, build or do something,
Right.
But then, so once I tell them I'm trans, it's a whole issue. And I feel like, okay, well, did you want to interview me or did you want to like talk to me? You know what I mean? Because I feel like,
Right.
if you were just trying to interview me or you wanted to like maybe take pictures, I have photographers reach out to me often too, and then they'll say they're not interested because of the whole trans thing. And the reason why I started telling people, at first I didn't feel it was a need to, but the reason why I started telling people, because I was actually in a situation where I was booked for a show. It was a wrestling show.
Okay.
And I didn't say anything. I didn't, I just thought, okay, I'm getting booked as a wrestler. So the promoter at the time, he was basically saying, he was going to get me a room and all this other stuff. And I was just like, okay, cool. And this was like earlier on in my career. I was still like learning the business and I was still new. And basically, when I got there at the event, at the venue to wrestle, he had seen me and he, obviously realized at that time that I, was a trans person, and his whole like attitude like changed. And basically, he didn't pay me the amount of money that he promised.
Wow.
And he blocked me after the show. So it was kind of like, wow, okay, like that's
Did
crazy.
you just did you like ignore the fact that he did all of that, or did you? Because there's other people that may come across him and he may do the same thing to them. But like, did you kind of like speak to him, or maybe find a way to speak to the higher up, someone that can talk to him and tell him like, hey, if you did not feel comfortable, you could have just spoken to the person, let them know how you feel, to kind of make things easy for the company.
Yeah. At that time, I wasn't even able to because, he already had blocked me.
Right.
I had basically wanted to mention, about how I felt about how he was, treating me and stuff. And, he already had blocked me. So it's kind of like, so ever since I dealt with that situation, I just kind of feel like, I let people know up front, which I feel like it's still kind of silly because it's not like we're having sex with each other. We're doing business. But then I also feel like sometimes people, when they do things, they don't have true intentions. So I also feel like a lot of guys sexualize my appearance because, I do present, a very, I guess, sexy image. So I think when a lot of men reach out to me to do things, it's not in good intentions. They want to do it, but I feel like they have other motives of doing other things.
So when you said they reach out to you, like in what ways, like how do they approach you? Like is it through text message or do they come to you
I'm really popular on Instagram because
Right.
I do I used to be in the content world of adult entertainment. So like I have built a really big fan base. So I do have a lot of people that that reach out and that have asked me to make appearances at parties and take pictures and things like that. So so yeah, and then once they find out the whole situation, they're no longer interested.
They
So
mean a change.
it's mainly just a business thing.
Yeah.
And then, but the thing about it, like I said, I really feel like if they weren't really truly interested, in me that way, they would have no issue with doing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I understand. So I wanted to talk to you about this because, things have changed. You know, the world is changing every single day as we move forward. What is your take on these other new alphabets that's being added on to the LGBT community? Like, how do you kind of like accept that as a person that's part of that community?
So I really don't know. I feel horrible. I really don't know the rest of the letters. I just know LGBTQ. There's more.
Yeah, there's more. They add more upon, and sometimes I'm questioning, like, come on, like, how does other people feel about all these other letters coming through? Because you know, when they come through now, people switch and they start treating others different. You know,
Yeah.
and people are presented those ideas differently. People are accepted differently in communities and so on. And sometimes I'm like, how can you guys work together to make sure that you know people understand, okay, this is enough, let's focus on this and continue to grow together instead of like trying to bring all this other extra
Yeah.
stuff because it confuses things.
I mean, me personally, I'm not really into the whole labeling thing. I honestly feel like that, people just need to just live their life the way that they want to. I feel like people always make it a thing to label someone. It's just, I feel like it's kind of like silly to me because I'm like, why does it matter? If someone wants to like another the same sex, that's their business. Why should it matter? You know
Right.
what I mean? And I think that the LGBTQ, I mean, I feel like, the label it can become a negative thing. So I feel like that's why a lot of people are really afraid to live their life and do what they want because they're just afraid of that label because society has made it so hard for people to live their life without judgment being in the community. So that's why there's so many people now that that are afraid and are committing suicide because they're too afraid to come out.
Yeah, and not everybody have thick
And
skin. Not everybody can handle all that
yeah.
pressure.
And really honestly, why would you have to come out? You know what I
Right.
mean? Like why would anyone have to come out? I've actually had guys that have had conversations with me and they are like, why what would I tell my family? Like what should I do? And I'm just like, well, why would you have to? Why would you have to let anyone know like how you feel about someone, because it's no one's business.
Yeah, but
Whatever you
I
just
feel like people have to come out. The reason why I feel like that is because there was this incident that actually happened. There was this man, he had married this woman. I saw this story on social media. So he married the woman, he loved the woman, but the man he loved men instead of women. But he hid that part of himself for a very long time until he decided, to say, you know what, let me show that that I'm bi, like I like men and women. The moment that he did that, he broke his whole family apart. And I feel like when people are able to show that ahead of time, you can save a lot of feelings, a lot of people from, all the, emotional damage and so on.
yeah.
His wife, she went through some issues. The kids, they weren't happy because they found out that, okay, my father is gay. My father never actually told us that he was gay. And that's, I don't really think it should go like that. I feel like people should be themselves. Like show people, okay, I'm this way. And I want to be this way ahead of time.
Yeah.
I mean, what's your take on that? Because
I
that's
mean,
how I feel.
I mean, I honestly feel like it's kind of like society's fault, because I feel like I was saying previously, a lot of people are scared to live the life of what they want.
Right.
So I feel like if people like stop shaming men for liking what they want or women, well, women barely get like shamed or criticized for liking other women. It's just a man thing, and I think that's part of like a man sexualizing the woman, like ooh, girl on girl, because that's what they like. But when it comes to guys doing it, they're horrible, they need to die, it's just like a bad thing. And I feel like, you know women get upset for men keeping things a secret, but in all reality, it's their fault. You know, if you stop shaming men and making them feel like it's bad, I mean, you know, they're not going to tell you anything, you know? So I feel like part of it has to do with like people just being able to accept and just like learn. I mean, I understand that everyone has a preference and it might not be your thing, and that's fine. You just move on. But as far as like, you know, shaming a man for that, I don't think it's fair, you know? And then you can't expect him to like want to tell you anything, you know. I do believe that a man definitely should let a woman know though if he's going to be you know, in a serious relationship. I do believe that he should be able to say something and let the girl know just in case. But other than that, you know, if it's just dating or something, I don't really feel anyone, you know, when you're dating someone, you don't know how long it's going to last. So it's like, why should you like really tell someone your business unless if you know it's serious? You know what I mean?
So me, so where I'm from, I feel like the reason why women tend to shame men for, you know, doing or, you know, being gay or, you know, trying, you know, to show a different side of not being masculine is because where I'm from, personally, we always believe that a man is supposed to be the provider, you know, the protector of the home and so on. And then just outside of the home, a man just supposed to be masculine, you know. And a lot of times when I came to America, it was so different because I saw a lot of gay people. I saw a lot of gay people. And then when I first saw a lot of gay people, my thing was like, why are these guys acting like girls? You know? And the reason why I said that is because when I was growing up, we always saw men as men just acting like men. Tough, no emotion. The man is either working on themselves in the gym, playing sports, and all the above. And I always say like, okay, this is how men should be. You know, but I started growing up and I started seeing things in America. I'm like, okay, you can't change someone of who they want to become. You know, you cannot change them. You can judge them, but is that gonna change them? No. You know, but at the end of the day, just accept them for who they are. Mm-hmm. If you don't want nothing to do with them, just stay away from them, but show them that respect.
Yes.
You know, exactly. And I feel like that's how it should be.
Yes.
Because we're in a different country. We just have to behave and adjust to that environment and respect people for who they are, you know. And that's why, like, I was even more welcome to have you on the podcast because I felt like this would be a great conversation to have. Yeah. Because a lot of times it's different sides to the story. Like, from my perspective as an African man that came from Africa here, so how people are treated in Africa and then seeing how people are treated here, I'm like, okay, you know, there's nothing I can do to change them. But one thing to do is just respect them for who they are and just treat them like human beings.
Yeah.
You know? So I want to ask you this question, though, because this has been a very much spoken topic in the last couple of years. Men in women's sports. What is your take on that?
You mean like trans people?
Yeah.
Okay. So so it's kind of funny because I wish I could like remember what the place was that I seen, but so I honestly feel like it really has to do with just people hating trans people, most of it, a high percentage of that, because there has been viral videos, and I'm sure you've probably had seen where they do it's in a different country, but where they do the two girl and guy boxing thing. Mm-hmm. Have you seen that before?
No.
Where it's like the guy will box two women and it's like a sport. Yeah.
I saw it. Yeah. So somewhere in Europe. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you look at the comments, everyone's just like, yeah, awesome. You know, they think it's so hilarious, you know, that a big guy is like literally punching a woman in the face. So, but then if I said like, okay, well, what if it was a trans person and it would be a trans person and two women? Would it be the same? I don't think so. it would be like, oh, that's not right. That's not fair. I don't think that they should do that. It would be like that because, you see it now. But when you see that, it's like, so I think a lot of it has to do with just people hating trans people. I do feel that when it comes to certain sports, I do feel that, you know, if it was an issue, I mean, I would think that the women at the time, like let's say boxing for an example, I do believe that if it was an issue, the woman would say like, no, I'm not interested. You know what I mean? I think that they should have the right to be able to want to fight or not, which I'm sure they do.
But there has been women that actually have said that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there have been women that have spoken about it, like, oh, like I feel uncomfortable in terms of like, fighting, a man. The reason why a trans person, sorry, and then fighting them, they either can be stronger than me, because I think it takes a lot of years for let's say when you're transitioning to actually be able to not develop as much testosterone compared to like when you're still transitioning. So I feel like at that point, if you still feel you're still strong, capable of, you still have the bone density of a man, and you can, you still have that strength of a man.
Yeah.
I feel like I believe you should still fight against, either you can fight other trans or you can fight men. But like when you get to that point, okay, there's some women who are very strong. When you get to that point where like you feel like, okay, now I can't fight men, then you can be given the opportunity to fight those women who wants to fight you. You know?
Well, the thing about it is that from my understanding, a lot of trans athletes, they aren't able to participate unless if they have the correct appropriate levels. Okay. Because me, for example, I know that my estrogen is pretty high. I have a very low amount of testosterone, so I barely, even though I wrestle, I mean, I'm not really as strong as I used to be. Right. But one of the things that is also crazy to me is how it could be a trans man, a woman transitioning to a man and doing sports. It would kind of be the same thing, but no one really has an issue with that. So it's kind of like I said, going back to, if you're gonna have an issue with something, you might as well just have a issue with the whole thing.
Yeah, with the whole thing, I mean? And I believe that too.
It's kind of like it's just trans women only, and I feel like, the people that are complaining, like if these so-called boxers or whoever is saying like I don't feel comfortable, I mean they still did it. You know what I mean? So you obviously didn't care that much. You still participated.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I honestly just think people really, really try to find an excuse to just use that to hate us, honestly. People just want to hate us. I mean, for example, the whole bathroom situation, people really were strongly wanting to vote for Trump just because they really wanted to put trans women into men bathrooms. They were more concerned about that. Okay. They didn't care about anything else. They wanted to put us in the men's bathroom.
Okay. So me with that point, I feel like, because I have little sisters. Mm-hmm. I have little sisters, I have little nieces, I have a mother, I have a sister. And the reason why I disagree with men, like trans men and women sharing bathroom, is because my little sister, I will have to see how she feel first, because she's more comfortable being a lot around like women, around girls, and so on. But let's say someone goes in there that's a trans person, how will my little sister feel? And if she responds in a way that she don't feel comfortable, then I'll be like, okay, she's uncomfortable. I feel like trans people should have their own bathroom. Mm-hmm. And the reason why I say they should have their own bathroom is that way they're comfortable. Because there's women that judge trans people for coming to the women bathroom. I've had conversation with different women that would be like, oh, I work on my job actually, there's a lot of people, are trans, and I've had some women come to me and say like, man, like I don't feel comfortable. Why is this trans person using the same bathroom as me? And our job had to actually build private bathrooms where people can go in and feel more comfortable. And I was like, man, I don't know. I don't know. There's nothing we can do. People voted, people decided at the workplace that they feel comfortable using this bathroom, so they might as well. So I didn't really have nothing to say to her. But then I felt where she was coming from because she's a woman and I'm a man. So if I disagree with her, she would say, you don't understand how I feel because I'm a woman. And if I agree with her, okay, what is that gonna do for her if I agree with her? People have to make different decisions in there, not me. But like, how would you feel though? Let's say if you was to take yourself out of, your shoe, and let's say you're a woman. I mean, you're a trans woman, but like you're a biological woman, and you in the bathroom, and a trans woman comes in the bathroom as you're using the restroom. How would you feel in that case, though?
It's kind of hard to say because, since I am one, but I would think that it wouldn't bother me because I know that, the person obviously doesn't want anything to do with me. I mean, they're just trying to use the bathroom.
Right.
It's, if someone was going to the bathroom, presenting how I'm presenting right now, I wouldn't think anything of it.
Right.
I honestly wouldn't even be uncomfortable. If it was someone that, was going in the bathroom and looked like you with lashes on, that's probably uncomfortable. But that kind of is a thing too, where as trans people, we as trans people know like when is the right appropriate time to do it. Once you become like a little bit more passing, that's when you're able to actually, take those steps into, doing things like that. I wouldn't recommend like someone that just started their transition to just immediately jump into the women's restroom, because obviously, they still have to develop and, become, a woman, because it takes time,
Right.
you can't just, it doesn't happen overnight. But then also, yeah, I can agree with you that it would be nice to have just a bathroom that is for everyone, which there are bathrooms that are for everyone. So I think that would be the solve of the problem there.
Yeah.
Because honestly, it's funny because there's actually like jokes about it that have been around. But like if I were to go into a men's bathroom, like realistically, if I were to go into a men's bathroom and just walk in there, honestly, I feel like there would be a lot of guys trying to sexually, get with me, to be quite honest. I know
Have that happened to you before?
I know for a fact. Well, I haven't gone into the men's bathroom before, but I do know that if I were, definitely for sure. I mean, I already have people getting at me as it is, just
Right.
at the gas station or going grocery shopping. So, the bathroom is kind of a place that is a little bit more, private. So I can just imagine, a guy wanting to do something in a stall or anything like that.
Yeah, there's
And-
there's some people that are like that. No, seriously.
Yeah.
There are some people who are like that.
I
Like
mean-
they wait until, that opportunity comes their way, and then they take
Yeah.
advantage of it.
Yeah, so I just thought it was kind of funny that like a lot of people were so like yeah, put them in the men's bathroom, but they're not realizing that honestly it's just a better way of guys to approach us even easier, because a lot of men will try to approach a trans woman very privately and secretly. But if he sees a trans woman in the bathroom while he's urinating, that's his opportunity right there to get with her.
Yeah.
So
No, I get your point. I get your point for sure.
So,
So me personally, I feel like trans people should have their own bathroom. Should have their own bathroom. The reason why I say that is because that in that way it accommodates everybody. They're comfortable, going to that bathroom feeling, okay, this woman, this man are not gonna look at me different. I'm gonna go in the bathroom where I feel accepted and I feel like I can do what I have to do and just leave. Because the bathroom, most of the time people go to the bathroom for few minutes. I mean, I
Yeah.
know with women you can go in the bathroom to fix your makeup, your hair, and so on. So that in that case, that's where like I'm speaking from, like, you know, how my little sister feel, you know, because also you said there's some men who will sexually, you know, take advantage of a trans person if they were to come into the men bathroom.
Yes.
On the other way around, there has been some trans people who have taken sexual advantage of some women in certain bathrooms, which I did actually see on the news. And in that case, how can we help
Yeah.
everybody?
I feel like it doesn't have anything to really like do fully on trans people,
Right.
because a woman can just go into the women's bathroom and sexually assault a woman. A man can go into the man's bathroom and sexually assault a man. I mean, I think that it's just kind of like one of a thing that people just assume because they've seen it happen like on the news and stuff, but there's still men assaulting other men. There's still women assaulting other women.
Yeah, the world is not a better
So
place.
so it's kind of one of those things where it's kind of like you just gotta like really just look out for yourself. You know, you can't really, trust anyone really, honestly. I
Yeah.
mean, what makes you think that a woman isn't going to try to sexually assault you? You know what I mean? Or sexually assault, a child. There's women that do it. There's adults, grown men that sexually assault boys, but they wouldn't assume that because they just think that everyone is, only trans people do it. So
I don't think only trans people do it.
yeah, I'm just saying like in general.
This
like,
world is evil.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of things can happen. I mean, you could see what happens every single day. You know,
yeah.
thousands and thousands of people are trafficked.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and a lot of them is not just women; it's also men.
Yeah.
You know, also men are trafficked, are sexually trafficked, and women and so on. So you can't really, like you said, you can't really just ignore the fact that everybody is going through something.
Yeah.
But I also want to ask you this, going back to, you know, when you started transitioning and you made that decision yourself, what is your take on how I said you have to be at an age where you're making a decision that you cannot regret later in the future. At what age do you think is reasonable enough for someone to make that decision to transition?
Me personally, I feel like, like, because I shared with you that it took time for me to really realize and grow.
Right.
I feel like it's kind of like a thing where, you just gotta just, live the experience and just, I mean, I feel like when you know, you know. I mean, obviously, like when you're younger, I mean, I feel like, a child should still be able to like live and really see because, there's a lot of people that don't transition until like, I transitioned in my, late 20s, early 30s, so you just don't know,
Right.
so I think like you have to give yourself time to grow and just really figure things out. But also, like I said previously, with the whole like family shaming and things like that, it's gonna be hard for someone wanting to, even have the thought of even living that because if they have a family that is very, against it, they're not gonna, want to do it. And then, internally they're gonna deal with a lot of mental issues and, things like that. I've had people that actually have come to me and told me that they want to just kill themselves because they feel so trapped.
What's your advice to those people?
I always try to encourage people to just, live their life and do what they want to do because I feel like we only have one life. So I feel like you got to make the most of it.
Right.
I had to like really take a step and really tell myself, this is my life. I'm going to do it my way. And if no one likes it, oh well. I feel like I'm not going to waste, I've already wasted so many years, living for other people.
Right.
And I had to just live for myself. And I think that is what people should do. And it is kind of scary because, like I said, you just don't know if people are gonna, disown you or be hateful, but oh well. I mean, new people will come that'll actually truly accept you, and those are the people that matter.
How do you deal with mental health? We all have different, uh, you know, coping mechanism. We all cope with our stress differently. Like me personally, if I'm going through something, I either go to the gym, I do something that I love, which is photography. I will edit, do podcasting and stuff like that. And it does help me, in most cases. Or I take a walk like next to the water and just listen to the sound of the water. But like, how do you manage or battle with mental health?
Yeah, so luckily I have like supportive friends that I could talk to regularly, that I talk to like a lot, that helps me, going to the gym, going out, being social. I like to, go out and, just have a good time. So doing just keeping myself busy
Right.
is what helps me. I try to avoid being alone because when I'm alone, that's when I get like all depressed and like, all in my feelings. So I always try to keep myself busy. And actually, wrestling has been one of my biggest ways of helping with my mental health, because, I'm always like, on the road and being around people that actually like support me and that are cheering for me and want to see me. And, that's a good feeling, especially when I come from a place where people were the total opposite, being mean and hateful. So, it's a good feeling now, to actually have people that actually, love me.
Yeah, most definitely. How do you feel? I mean, for the people that love you and show you support, what do you say to them every day to remind them, to keep doing that? Because they may run through someone that's going through the similar things as you.
Yeah.
Like how do you always keep them, on their toes to continue doing the same thing, either for the next person?
Yeah. So I actually do this all the time, and my friends think I'm so weird and they'll laugh at me and pick at me about it. But I feel like it's always important to always let someone know that you appreciate them and that you love them and you thank them because, tomorrow is never promised. So you never really know when our day will come. So I feel like, you know, every day you should just, when you're with your friends or your family, just let them know that you love them and you thank them because yeah. So I do that all the time. I always tell my friends, oh, thank you for being my friend. I really appreciate you, because I feel like it's important. I'd rather them know that they were a good friend to me, in case if, something happens, at least they know how I felt. So,
For the family members, I wanted to ask you this question because you mentioned that your brother would not let you be around his kids. The reason why is because you're a trans woman. But like, is there a time when you're gonna decide to actually speak to him and or find a way to build that understanding amongst each other so that way you're able to see your nieces and nephews?
yeah, well, now that they're grown and adults now, they can see me now.
Okay.
But I just kind of like gave up. It's kind of like one of those things where like, I tried for so long, and I just kind of was like, well, you know what, F him. He doesn't want to. It is what it is.
Did the kids ever say anything?
Yeah, I haven't really seen them as adults, only just a couple times, and
Okay.
they do actually say hello to me, and they get happy to see me. But yeah, I think it's just crazy that people just have this mindset of we're like horrible people and we do like bad things to kids when really like that can happen to anyone. Like anyone can do that. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
So
anyone could do it. There's this girl that she posted a story about her family where one of her uncle actually sexually assaulted her. She was a little girl. He waited for her to, go to sleep. The whole family was asleep, and then he went and just did inappropriate stuff to her. And she went online and actually started telling the story. And I was like, man, like you said, everybody or anyone can do something
yeah,
to a child, you know? And I feel like the reason why, I mean, from my understanding, because kids are easily influenced and kids pick up on what they see. But like, let me say you was to meet your nephews and nieces at a young age, what would you have told them, for them to actually see, okay, I'm this way, but like, don't just see me this way, choose your way. Like, how would you have told them in a way to kind of like help them understand that they can live their lives and just be who they want to be, but not follow your footsteps, because it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
And not everybody's gonna do what you're doing. Everybody have their own lives, but like, how are you gonna kind of speak to them?
I honestly feel like it's just important for, kids to just, kids see all different types of things in life, because as they get older, so they're not like so like afraid of it. You know what I mean? A kid is going to do what they want to do. Like, just because someone is gay and a kid sees, a gay person, they're not just gonna turn gay. It's crazy. A kid is gonna do what they feel they want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I actually there was this little trend that was happening, and people were asking, like, would you rather have your daughter be pregnant or something, or a hoe, or your son be gay? And people were saying that they'd rather have
That's
their
a hard
daughter.
answer.
Huh?
That's a hard answer for like
Yeah.
an African man.
People were saying that they'd rather have their daughter be like a hoe, like fuck everyone. We said, oops, sorry. I don't know if
Oh no, it's okay.
Okay. So people were agreeing more to having a daughter that would like have sex with a whole bunch of people versus a gay son. And I thought that was like crazy.
I mean, because I mean, like you said, because in society, especially where I'm from, either. I mean, neither. And
But
people,
if you had to choose, well,
if I had to choose, honestly, I wouldn't choose.
no,
there
but
is-
what if you had to?
I wouldn't choose because personally, me, I wouldn't. Okay, let me say I have a boy and he wants to be gay. Okay, he can be gay, but me personally, I wouldn't want my son to just be gay. The reason why I'm saying that is because I want my kid to have, because the way I grew up is I always want to have a family.
Yeah.
So like I want my kids, let's say my son or my daughter, to have their own kids too, to build upon my name, because one thing about African families is that we live with our last names. So I would want my kid not to be gay, to have a family, to have, a wife, and to have grandkids for me and stuff like that. So that's one thing that I would want. And I'm speaking from my own preference. My daughter, I wouldn't want my daughter to just be pregnant, honestly, because also in that case, then I have been a failed parent. Because me as a parent, I want to be able to teach my kids to make the right decisions for themselves. Like make a decision that's gonna benefit your future. Don't go out there hoeing around and then all of a sudden you come back home, Dad, I'm pregnant. Like I have a kid, I have a grandson for you. I'm gonna feel disappointed as a parent, because then it's gonna be like, okay, I always wanted to have grandkids the right way. Like I wanted, a family to continue to grow properly, because now my daughter, she's bringing a kid home, and where is the father? Because mostly if she's gonna be a hoe, she's just gonna sleep around and come home pregnant with nobody to support the kids. So that's how I would kind of like answer that question.
Do you feel like you'd be a failed parent if your son was gay?
I wouldn't feel like a failed parent. I feel like as men, you have to understand, okay, he made that decision himself. And if he's gonna feel better about himself, okay, that's him. He made that decision. But I'm not gonna say I hate my child. I'm not gonna hate my child for making that decision. But I'm gonna make sure I understand, okay, he made that decision. I'm gonna let him stick to his own decision. he's welcome to be part of the family, but I'm gonna make sure that he doesn't come to me saying that you're the reason why I became gay. You know, no, some
Yeah.
kids are like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, some
No,
kids are
yeah.
gonna blame their
I
parents
get what you're saying.
for their decision.
Yeah.
So me personally, if I was to have a son, I would just gonna, raise my son to be the best version of me.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I think that's wonderful because, that's like a big thing. That's why a lot of people are afraid because they're more concerned about their family, but if there was families that were, like how you are, it would be a lot easier, for people to just
yeah, you can't disown your own blood. You can disagree with them, but you cannot disown your own blood. I feel like once it's your bloodline, you just have to find a way to accept them for
yeah.
who they are.
Hmm.
But you can't just disown them. Just treat them like trash. I feel like that's
Yeah.
not being like a human.
Hmm.
I feel like as a human, me, I always tell people like, man, if like with my friends, let's say I'm hanging out with my friends and they decide to do some dumb stuff,
Hmm.
and they grown enough and they know that doing that dumb stuff will result into consequences. I let them understand, okay, if you do that, you're gonna, and you feel some type of way, don't come to me saying I didn't tell you
Yeah.
because you made that decision yourself. So you own up to your decision. So that's where I would tell my son, you made that decision, so you own up to that decision. And I will have them understand where I'm from. There's some family members that are not gonna accept you.
Hmm.
You know, if he comes, for a family get together, there's some family members who are not gonna accept him because that's just how the African families are.
Hmm.
You know, we grew up not seeing, gay people and stuff like that, and seeing gay people is different. Is a different environment. Is like a cultural shock. If that makes sense, it's a cultural shock because if someone was gay in my country, you barely saw them. They were either hiding, or as they walk in throughout the day, you would never even tell they're gay until maybe they do something in public and then they get exposed to everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. So I want to ask you this question because you've been doing a lot of stuff in terms of like wrestling. You've been fitness coach and so on. But like, what message do you have, for the kids, for the youth that really want to find something that's gonna benefit them in the future? Because a lot of times the hardest thing to do is finding your true passion because there's a lot of things going on. A lot of kids jump into different trends. The reason why they jump into trends is because it's popular, and then end up going a different route that they didn't even plan to go in.
Yeah.
But like, what advice would you have for them, to make the right decision in finding a career path that's gonna make them happy, something they're gonna enjoy throughout their daily lives?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's okay to like dibble and dabble in things. I at first wanted to be like I started off teaching as a teacher, and that was kind of like my passion at first. But then I knew that I really wanted to be a wrestler. Deep down, I wanted to wrestle, and I just think
That's
that
a huge transition. Sorry to cut you off.
I know.
From a teacher to a wrestler, you might have been a coolest teacher.
Yeah. So yeah, so I mean I've done a lot of different things,
Right.
And I just think that, that's part of life. Part of life is growing and experiencing different things. You go through challenges and it just makes you become, the person you are. And I feel like whatever someone decides, whatever they want to do, just do it, because
Right.
you only get one shot, and at least if it doesn't become successful, at least you tried and you don't regret like, oh, I wish I would have done that,
Right.
So I think it's good to just always, just go for it whenever.
Yeah. So just set your mind on something
Yeah,
and
set
just
your
go for
mind
it.
and just go for it.
Go for it. Most
and,
definitely.
and it's okay if it doesn't go well. At least you know that you did it, and then you just move on to the next thing. You know?
Have you encountered some failures in your life?
Yeah, definitely. You know, there's some things that I wanted to do, and it didn't really work out for me. So yeah, but I just kept going. I didn't let that stop me. I just, continued. Um, so yeah, I
How
think
did you
that's
handle it though? Because a lot of times, not everybody know how to handle failure. Some people they just give up. Some people, you know, they know how to move forward and find something else. Some people just put all eggs in one basket, and then once they fail, it's like the end of the world for them. But like, how do you handle failure?
I think that when you have people that actually like really support you and that are like happy for you, it's kind of like, one of those things where, you know, if you fail, you don't really feel as bad, or
Right.
you just don't give up. Because, for example, like I just feel like I just, you know, I have like this huge fan base and supportive, people that really love my wrestling and that love me. So I feel like, it just motivates me to keep going and to not stop. And I think that when people don't have people that, support them or
Yeah.
anything, I feel like it's a little challenging for them to, move forward and do things, you know. I've actually known people that that just gave up just because they feel like, oh, no one really likes what I'm doing, and they just give up. It's
Oh
kind of
yeah,
like,
it's. I mean, that's
yeah,
where I feel like that's where I also look at social media, and it have ruined so much dreams because people are tend to post their picture or their video, or let me say they're posting like their training video, and they get 2 likes, and then it kind of kills their motivation. Some people give up too early because they allow the the audience on social media to dictate their lives.
yes,
They don't make the decisions to feel as if, you know what, even if I get 2 likes, those 2 likes or those 2 people that have saw my video, they have been impacted. I feel like people need to start seeing the importance of what they're doing and what impact does it bring to the
yeah, because people are
to the
still
world.
watching.
Yeah,
Yeah.
people are still watching.
So even if they're not liking, they're still watching and they're seeing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And you know, no one has to like something to be inspired by it. You know what I mean? But of
Right.
course, people, we live in this world now where we feel like someone has to like something of ours in order to know that that they actually like it.
That's true. No, most
And
definitely.
really, I mean, it's not really a big deal. I mean, it's just a like. What is a like gonna do? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it shouldn't stop you. When they hit like, is it going to, make you become like this superhero? You know what I mean? You should still want to just do it for yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah. So sometimes I actually disable like my comments, or like I turn off my likes sometimes, and people are able to do that, but I do that just because I just, it's kind of like a mental thing. When you kind of like don't see, it's kind of like you don't really care.
That's true. I never
So
really looked at it like that. That's actually smart.
yeah.
When you don't see it, it's like you're just gonna continue to work and you're
Yes.
not gonna pay attention to, oh my God, okay, this person liked it. And that's how a lot of friendships are destroyed too, because not everybody's on social media 24/7. Sometimes you have to understand your friend is not gonna be on social media 24/7 liking your stuff.
Yeah.
So if you don't see them in the list of those people that have liked your content, don't just jump to conclusion and say this person is a hater. This person don't like me. Understand. Okay, maybe this person have something also that they're doing, and turning off those likes actually it gives you that kind of mindset.
Yes.
Like this person is doing what they're doing. I'm doing what I'm doing, and I'm not worried about who's liking it or who's commenting. But at
Yeah.
the end of the day, is what makes me happy. And yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I'm gonna start telling some people
Yeah, I
that
think they
complain about
should. I mean,
you know
Instagram has this setting where you're able to like literally hide your likes. That's what it is. Hide your likes.
Yeah.
So you don't see what the number is.
Yeah.
So you don't know like how many people liked your stuff. And I feel like it's just a good way. And then also like, taking your comments off, so you don't have to worry about someone saying anything negative. I used to do that. But
How
I
did
don't
you
really-
handle that though? Like if someone was to go into your comments and say something negative to you, did you like respond back? Or
Yeah, I used to be one of those people where I would like argue online, but I just felt like I'm too grown for that, so I just don't even entertain it. Like if someone says something, I just delete it. Like if someone says something negative,
Yeah, you
or
have no time
I'll
for
just
it.
I just won't even respond. I'll just let it sit there and let them look stupid. That they're not saying anything.
Yeah, because
Because not everything deserves a reaction.
that's it. Because once you give it a reaction, then you allow it to be in control of you.
Yes.
That's how I always look at it. That's why sometimes I don't respond to just any comment too. You say something, okay, that's how you felt.
Yeah.
Go for it. Like it's not gonna change nothing in my life.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's go ahead and just cut it here.
Oh, we forgot the.
Oh yeah, don't worry. We're gonna do that in part 2.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, guys. If you haven't done so, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. We just wait for part 2. This is East Pinchot Podcast. Appreciate Layla for coming through. Drove all the way from Rochester, all the way to Buffalo, man, just to be on this platform.
Yes.
Like I always say, man, this is a platform that brings everybody. The number one diverse podcast here in the city of Buffalo. Appreciate you. Hit the subscribe button. Go ahead and follow Layla on Instagram. I'm gonna put this Instagram in the description below so that way I can follow that. Appreciate you, and we outside. Let's go.